morning, everyone. I know it's an early morning session, so we really appreciate you being here. I think I speak on behalf of both of us when I say that we're truly honored and very excited to be here as part of the MENA Effie Thought Leadership Program. As mentioned, we are going to be talking about how collaboration is a key survival skill in today's time and age. I'm Ruqayiah Usman, Media Director with UMJ3, and I have been on the Johnson & Johnson account for the last 6 years.
Good morning, everyone. So I am Ravina, and I'm the Senior Media Manager for Johnson & Johnson Consumer in Middle East, North Africa, and Turkey. And as Ruqayiah just mentioned, we're honored to be here to talk about collaboration. And I think we have a great example here since we've been collaborating for the past 7 years. Our journey with J3 started in 2014 as our media partners, and I'm going to let Ruqayiah start about it because I've been in Johnson & Johnson for 2.5 years, so I've only known part of the journey. So I think it's best if she starts telling you the initials of the story.
I think I can very proudly and easily say that I'm probably one of the oldest members of J3 worldwide, because globally J3 was actually established about 6 years ago. And we've had the business for about 7 years. We kicked off as a very typical agency-client relationship, which is expected when two new entities enter a relationship. There's a lot of getting to know each other. It was about how ways of work needed to be put down. Trust had to be established. Relationship had to be built upon. And back then, the focus was really on the delivery of numbers. It was the conversations at that point in time were about the delivery of GRPs. It was about SOV rankings, CPPs. And not saying that that's a bad thing, because all said and done, that is how you define the success of a media campaign. But we weren't really involved as much in business conversations and business updates. However, over a period of time, what we were able to showcase was how J3 is able to successfully impact positively the business side of things for J&J. And I think testimony of that is the fact that over the course of the next couple of years, we took in the digital and social business as well, given that we started off as offline only. And I think from there on, what started was a real evolution in terms of the ways of working with Johnson & Johnson. We went from having access to very little business insight, business updates, to now receiving on a monthly basis very detailed share analysis across the AMET region. We went from minimal data sharing to now having established together the entire Google data stack for J&J. We went from receiving a brief on an email and that's it, come in and present your strategy, to now being a part of the team that helps J&J put the brief together. We work collectively on it based on access to consumer insights and research that we both have together. And I think the best part over here is that over the last 7 years, what we have truly managed to do as an agency partner is show that as an agency, you are able to have an impact on a business beyond the boundaries of media as well. And I think Maria, who's been with us, on the J&J side for the last 2-3 years, I think she has seen that as well, right?
Yeah, and I was quite impressed when I firstly joined. I joined J&J with previous experience on different media agencies, different clients, different sectors, and I had great collaboration with some clients, not so great collaboration with other clients. So it was a refresher to come to J&J and say, not only from the media team, there was a great collaboration with J3. It was not only our media plan, where they just produce media plans and reports, and as Ruqayiah said, just focus on KPIs and GRPs or like CTRs, etc. But what I saw very refreshing as well is from the brand managers' knowledge as well. They were uplifting their media knowledge on a yearly basis. So the status meetings were not about, oh, we have the PO missing, or we have this material missing, or this is a URL for your launch, this is the landing page for this specific campaign, this is the assets for your social campaign, etc. It was also about, oh, we've seen this ROI decreased on this particular channel. What do you think we're doing wrong? What can we improve? Or the discussions on media plans were already coming from a solid ROI learning on the previous year. So all these learnings and all this shared data, understanding our business, were involved on the strategies, on the media plans, on the discussions. So it was not only a pure media conversation or collaboration, which was very refreshing, because we truly believe, and I truly believe that, especially from my previous experience, not only you are able as a media partner to have a more impact on the business, but the team is more motivated because they're doing something beyond. They're solving a problem, and they're part of that problem in a way. So we're not talking just as a media completely separated. Keep in mind as well that we don't work with established creative agency. We have different creative agencies based on different projects. So that also makes a bit more reliance on the media agency to be our truly partners, because they'll have all this continuation. If we're working with different partners, different creative partners, it's crucial that they come with us along the way. What was also very important is during 2019, Johnson & Johnson went through an internal transformation. We were looking at, from a business perspective, re-looking at our objectives, refocusing in terms of portfolio, etc. So it was crucial as well that we take J3 along with us on that transformation journey. Otherwise, truly because they're our partners and they need to understand why the business is shifting, why our priorities have changed, and why our new objectives are our new vision as a company and where we're trying to achieve, becoming much more consumer-centric, for example. So they have to help us in all this journey, and that was crucial to lay out the foundation, I think, of what was coming our way without knowing on 2020. So
yeah, I think 2020, to be fairly honest, did start off as any other year for us. We received our usual briefs. We worked on our strategies. We ideated on campaigns. There were quite a few launches that we were excited about. I think Johnson's Baby, for example, in 2019, they went through a whole revamp. And in 2020, they were planning to launch new communication on their kids range. We worked with power partners to have creative workshops and insights. Storyboarding was done. I think the creatives were even almost finalized.
Yeah.
This campaign was meant to go live on the 21st of March last year. And I remember on the 17th of March, we were asked to all go home, not come back for the next 2 weeks. And the following day, we receive a call from the client from the brand team saying, so we're going to have to cancel this campaign because it doesn't make sense to launch a new product when that's not what consumers are thinking about. That's not what's top of mind for them. And I think that is something that we all probably saw across any business that we work on. Anything new was put on hold. Anything new was put on, was postponed or delayed. The good thing, though, for us was, as Maria said, we were prepared for it. I think with transformation itself, J&J as a business had already identified the objectives that they wanted to focus primarily for 2020 on. And it was still in line with the changes that COVID was bringing about. I think one of the key things that we saw working really great for us was agility. Agility had a whole new meaning for us during the time of COVID. I don't think I've ever seen us work that quick, turn around approvals on POs, approvals on plans, approvals on creatives. I've never seen it happen that fast. And I think it's that which in essence helped us get to the point that we eventually did to. I think another point also is at the beginning of 2020 itself, knowing that e-commerce was growing. So for example, what we had identified at the beginning of the year was about 20 to 25% of growth in e-commerce was expected. And that's how we made our plans for e-commerce as well. We knew that that's where we had to get to. Even globally, for that matter, on both J3 and J&J side, we knew that consumers were starting to develop, especially in this region, starting to develop more of a safety net when it came to shopping online. And hence what we had identified at that point in time was a shift in how we did our strategic thinking. So it was about moving from being focused on brand to being focused on consumer. I think Google has also spoken about the messy middle of the consumer mind and how it's not a simple journey anymore. Your consumer can decide to make a purchase in 2 years or in 2 days. It really depends on their state of mind. And that's why we wanted to give them access to make that purchase at any given point in time. And we were prepared for that. This is something that happened before COVID even, right?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
and even collaboration went beyond not only with the brand managers or the media team, but also we had to think about e-commerce being involved. It's a huge part of our business, obviously, but it's a different department that handles it: commercial, legal terms, compliance. We are somehow a very complex organization in some layer, and we have our own internal processes. And thanks to them knowing those internal processes, it helped us accelerate and be much more agile, like Ruqayiah was saying, because if they didn't know, if we had to brief them or build that foundation, we wouldn't be where we are right now. And we were able to pivot all our plans, to pause the launches that we needed to launch, to move into e-commerce, to adapt our creative. As I said, we don't work with a set creative agency across all our brands, or it's more on a project basis. So it was crucial as well that they have that capability to make us adapt all our digital assets and make them shoppable, because that's what the consumer needed at this time, right? They were not going to shopping face to face. They were all shopping online. So it was a matter of weeks to turn around all our plans, all our brands, and just adapt it to the new normal that we used to call before. So,
yeah, and I think going with that, while we had all of our predictions and everything in place, what we weren't prepared was to be able to see the kind of spike that we did in terms of online shopping. I think 150% increase in online sales is what was reported by partners at that point in time. Along with J&J, what we did was, to be able to navigate our way through the entire sea of e-retailers and e-commerce partners that were popping up all over the place all of a sudden, saying, hey, I can do media too, I can support you. It was about understanding from a J&J side, as Maria mentioned, who has the right listings, who has the right distribution levels, to be really able to support J&J in this journey of e-commerce. And I think it was really exciting that we were actually one of the first few CPGs in the region that went live with the Amazon search products. Because we were one of the first few to do that, obviously there was no benchmarks for us to work with. There was absolutely nothing in terms of what success looks like on Amazon search. And I think because of that, we had to rely a bit on regional benchmarks, regional ways of working, and that's where we also saw support coming in at that level. And what we ended up delivering on at that point in time, in the beginning, was a ROAS of more than 8. Regional benchmarks are defined at 3. So we were able to see, the impact of that agility, of that connection, collaboration with the brand teams really come through in an ROI format as well. Yeah, and I think all said and done, at the end of it, luckily enough, we were one of the first few markets in the whole region, in the EMEA region, that was able to showcase a growth of about 200% on the e-commerce front. And again, this really would not have been possible without the kind of collaboration that we were able to bring to the table.
Yeah. And as I mentioned, the collaboration is not only between J3 or J&J and our e-commerce team and our legal team, et cetera, but it goes beyond our partners as well. We obviously work very closely with Google, with Facebook, with the different vendors, Amazon or Lulu or Nahdi in Saudi, etc. So the collaboration from an e-commerce perspective comes from our e-com lead, and from a media perspective comes from J3 and our team. So putting everyone on the same table, it looks very simple, but it's truly not, because each one speaks a different language. We're speaking media KPIs, they're speaking commercial terms. So at the end of the day, when we're trying to just, excuse the analogy, but to row on a boat towards the same direction, this is when magic happens. Instead of like everyone working about or preparing about their own silo or worrying about their own objective, is we're here to solve this and we're here to adapt to this situation. So let's all move together and we will reach faster than if we just do things separately. So that's why we truly saw this coming. So we have some examples to share with you guys, but we wanted to also check if anyone has questions or comments or sharing your own experience as well with us in terms of collaboration with different partners.
I mean, I think we'd like to hear from you as well, because we want to make sure that, given that this is a smaller session, we're able to engage and really understand collaboration across different businesses. So do you have any examples of collaboration that you've seen on your side, be it with partners, with agencies, clients, businesses, anything that you'd like to share with us perhaps?
Anybody?
Might be too early.
Okay, Ruqayiah, we had run a campaign with Communicate magazine
Okay.
regarding the event for the session, and we have got a few questions from them as well. So one of those questions would be, how does work from home hamper collaboration, and how to address this issue?
Yeah, interesting. So, I mean, I think, again, we had foundations in place. We were sent home before then, by the way. At J&J, we were sent home, I think it was 11th of March for 2 weeks. And we already had in place, because logistics in Dubai sometimes are difficult, and they're based in Media City and we're based in Healthcare City. So we already have some presential status, but some status were already over the phone or over a conference call. So we were somehow used to that kind of way of working. But then we had to adapt to having, instead of like every other week, it was every week on an online basis. And we just made sure that we were truly connected, because what's happened, and based on also my personal experiences, because we're not on the same office anymore, sometimes you forget to tell your colleagues something, or you're stuck into, I mean, we were working like I don't know how many hours. We were all on a hamster machine kind of thing. It was endless days. So we just needed to make sure that that communication, that open channel communication was there constantly, having more regular connects than before. So I think that's how we overcome it. And like Ruqayiah was saying before during the session, the foundations were there. So it was, I think that was, because the homework was done, it was easier in a way.
Great. And we have one more question. How to ensure that collaboration becomes a mindset and an organization's culture?
Yeah, it's very important.
I think that's an interesting one. It's not a black or white, right? It's a process, and that's exactly what we went through as new partners, back in 2014. And there was a lot of work that had to be put in from a, building a relationship perspective. It's not as simple as just walking in and saying, okay, J&J, this is what we think you should be doing, and that's it. You're going to do it. But I think I can say to some extent that today we are able to give the client, give the brand team a call and say that, Maria, I don't think this is the way to do it. So I think let's look at it in another way. And it does happen because we have that established relationship now. We have trust. And, probably skipping ahead of, what we have as part of our conclusion as well, it's about trust and agility really coming together. And you can't have one without the other, because you're not going to want to be agile with someone who you don't have trust in. So it's about working on that, and conversation, involvement on both sides is very important to get to that point. Yeah.
And I think, just to add something in my personal experience, at least, is sometimes we tend to talk to people thinking that they know what we're thinking. And that was, for me, has been the biggest learning. And I don't know why I learned that at J&J. I think it's the culture, or the way we work with each other, or the credo that we have, that we're all super respectful to each other. So for me, it was the biggest learning of going into a conversation assuming that that person is not on my brain, that that person doesn't know the background that I know. So I think this has helped me personally massively internally. When I'm going to talk with the legal counselor on our office, I have to assume he has no media knowledge whatsoever, because I cannot go back here talking to him about cookies and first-party data and uploading data in platforms and DMPs, and he's lost. He naturally is the same that he starts talking to me about legal laws and this data privacy law coming, but in legal terms, I will not understand. So that for me has been a big learning, into learn more about what the other person is working on, to be able to understand their point of view, understand where they're coming from, and how do you fit your speech into them, rather than forcing your talk or your speech or your point of view. That's not going to work, and you'll never understand each other. So that has been my personal learning.
Yeah. So do we have any other comments? Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Ravina from
Hi.
Mindspace.
Hi.
I'm a strategist. I just wanted to ask, in terms of traditional structures and processes, what are examples of some of the things you felt you had to start letting go of to allow for real collaboration to take place?
Okay.
Thanks.
So
Yeah.
I'll take this one
Yeah.
first. So one very, very important thing that we, in light of the traditional way of doing strategies. So I think up until about maybe 3 years ago, what we used to do was annual planning, right? So you'd receive a brief which would tell you about all of the campaigns through the course of the year, and everything had to be, planned for, accounted for, from a month from when you received the brief, and that was it. You didn't have a lot of free way to change things. But what we realized was, as the world got a lot more digitized, as your consumer got a lot more sensitive to everything that was going around the world, you couldn't do annual planning anymore. You had to rely more on, and this is something I've said before as well, that it became about living sometimes, living in the quarter, and in some cases living in the headline of the day. And that is something that we saw happening quite a lot with J&J, and we moved. We would receive, yes, an annual overview of the year where J&J works on putting together their business plan for the year, but that was it. Our campaign strategies were our campaign strategies. So about a week to 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks before the launch of a campaign is where we would go back to the client and say that this is what we think you should be doing for the upcoming campaign, which is going to run for X amount of weeks, and that's it. Then we plan the next one separately. So I think that was one of the bigger changes that really allowed us to even constantly monitor the ROIs that were coming through, because once you receive an ROI update, you're able to then make the change in the next campaign coming through as well. You don't have to wait a whole year to make that change then. Yeah.
Thank you.
And if I can give you as well an experience internally at J&J. So what I mean by transformation was not only as a vision from the company and objectives, et cetera, but also the way we used to work. And we call this now the agile ways of working, because we used to work very separately in silos, like any other company, I would assume as well. So you have e-commerce. My biggest example will be with e-commerce, for example. If we don't listen to, they have a different agenda. They're purely commercial. I'm not going to say they don't care, but like for them, brand building is a secondary objective. They want to sell. And in marketing, they want to build the brand, yes, to sell, but they are very eager in building the brand loyalty, brand love. So these two, they need to collaborate. And as I said before, once you start understanding the other person objective, what she has in mind, what she's trying to achieve, and she understands what the other one is trying to achieve, that's when collaboration happens. Then that's when they work together and they say, yeah. It's a simple example, like I'm not going to push a new launch and I'm going to, I don't know, drive directly to e-commerce. If people are not even buying that product, let me potentially promote other products that already have some sales on e-commerce to make sure that I increase that. So it's how do we speak the same language, both coming down from their natural comfort zone and just understanding each other much more. And that involves also legal and shopper marketing. You cannot have a shopper activation on a mall if it's not collaborating with marketing team. So when we start working all together, we've seen much better results. So we've been in transformation after, this is our third year, so 2019, 20, this is our third year, and we're seeing the results, and we're seeing that collaboration paying off.
So thank you for the session. I have another question, and I'd like your feedback on, you started, Maria, the conversation. Sorry, my name is Fadi. I'm from Netizency.
Okay.
You started the conversation talking about all of the processes and specific requirements at J&J, which we understand are a lot. And you both come from big companies with a lot of processes and policies. At the same time, there's a lot of new data privacy policies coming around. There's a lot of new policies on money transfers as American companies. There's new policies from CDCs and DHAs on all of this. So what I'd like to ask is, how much of those policies and rules actually help you versus hurt you in innovating or when you collaborate? So every time you collaborate, you have to abide by two sets of rules for two companies other than all of the hundreds of rules going around, and it becomes pushing the needle 1 inch takes a whole army. And I just like your feedback on that, coming from a global company working on something like this.
Yeah, I hear you very loud and clear. So
It's the story of our lives.
yes, it is. We're not gonna lie. As an agile person coming from marketing digital, well, we all want to fast and run, and it's kind of frustrated. But when again, I keep on referring to the same point. But when you understand why the company is pushing these processes, instead of seeing it as a barrier, you start collaborating with the team and providing more information and helping speed up the process. So me particularly, I'm working on a data project, and it's been 9 months. It took me more than my own children, right? So I hear you very, very loud, trust me. But if data privacy is on their own silo and I'm on my own silo, we're not going to reach anywhere. I need to understand why their policies are being forced on us. And I had to explain to her, what are we trying to do to sell more products? Because at the end of the day, that person is from data privacy or from legal. But if we don't sell, then we all go out, right, of the company. So we're all here to, at the end, sell products, basic. So if I explain to her what we're trying to do from a marketing perspective, to gain more customers, to get more consumers, to sell more, to adapt to the new ways, because there are, like you said, lots of challenges coming our way now to target our audiences on digital platforms, etc. She starts understanding, I'm saying she because it's a she, so that person starts understanding what we're trying to do and why does it make sense, and then gets more involved into her own job as well, because instead of saying this as, I need to revise all the data privacies on all these countries just to get back to this person into her questions, now she's engaged. So she knows what we're trying to do this, and she'll try to speed up the process as much as possible, because it's not easy.
I mean, at the speed of data, taking a year to do a data policy, it becomes obsolete by the time it's ready.
Exactly, that's the problem. That then when we start moving further, you have more data privacy coming our way, you have to adapt again. So unfortunately, I used to get a bit mad at the beginning, but then I understood that it's not her who's changing the law. So I'm like, I'm not mad at you, I'm just mad at the situation, that it's taking much, much longer than needed. But sorry to refer back to the same point, but I think it's crucial that, coming down from your comfort zone, from your, I don't want to call it ego, but coming back from your dream and face reality and say that, okay, this person has a hell of a job to do as well. Yeah. So let's collaborate to each other and make it pleasant for both of us.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, and I think in light of collaboration, and I think unless we have any more questions, we do have a few other points to get through as well. Okay. All right. So as I was saying, we do have a few more examples that will further help you understand how we have seen collaboration really have a positive impact on our ways of working, our business. I think if you recall, we mentioned at the beginning the brand connects, or statuses, as they are more commonly known. It was during COVID last year where, during one of the statuses, the brand team came in to or on the call, on our Teams video call, they were essentially updating us on the, the market conditions, the dynamics, the share updates, how individual markets across the GCC were performing. This was on Johnson's Adult. And we saw at that point in time that Johnson's Adult in Kuwait was actually not doing so well. And if you know Kuwait as a market, you know that in the beauty space, it is quite an important market. A lot of your influencers, a lot of your local, beauty regimes, they all come from Kuwait. So obviously, it was a very important market for Johnson's Adult as well. However, while we were in that session, it was more of an update. There wasn't really an ask for an action plan, because there was so much going on all of the fronts. But I think through the course of that status session, what happened is both stakeholders, stakeholders on the J&J side, on the J3 side, realized that, hey, wait a second, we have opportunity here to, with agility, move investment from other markets into Kuwait to be able to support ongoing marketing efforts, to be able to deliver on uplifting Kuwait's state of share. And that's exactly what we did. That's exactly what happened. And I think this just goes back to the point we mentioned at the beginning as well about sharing of information, something that we've been saying throughout. conversation is key. You're not going to know what you can do till you don't put it out there. I think as Maria's mentioned as well, no one's going to know what's going on in your mind unless and until you really talk about it. So, talk with your agency partners, talk with your businesses, your clients, because you don't know what might come out of it.
Yeah, it's about sharing. And another example that I remember clearly was during adapting to that new pandemic life where we're all stuck at home. We were very, as I said, during transformation, we were focusing, one of our main objectives was to focus and be more consumer-centric. And the consumer, as we knew it, didn't exist anymore. The consumer was stuck at home with kids, online learning, working from home, not being able to go out. Supermarkets are limited. I mean, if you wanted to go to a supermarket, you had to apply for the police, etc. So the consumers that we knew were completely changed. They had to adapt to that new situation. So it was crucial to rely on our partners, not only media, but also, as I said, like Google's, Facebook's, Instagram, Snapchat, etc., just to make sure that we get these learnings. Because, for example, people are searching for new things, right? So it was crucial to understand all these new insights. And one insight that came across was obviously salons were closed. The rituals here are very important, right? Spas or like getting your hair done on the salon, etc. So there was a lot of demand on hair treatments at home, salon hair treatment at home. And we have OGX, which is our hair care line, and we had a very passionate brand manager, thankfully. So we were able to put together the insight, implement it in a matter of 2 weeks on our new creative, drop that message, launch the new campaign, and drive to e-commerce. And we saw an increment, not only in efficiencies, was about
84% cost efficiencies.
So in cost efficiencies, which from a media perspective, we were super happy because obviously we're driving a better cost, but also in terms of conversion, like the results on e-commerce were over the roof. It was like insane. 187% increase or something like that. So is this example of how you act but having the perfect collaboration, because here was the brand manager involved, the e-commerce involved, our media partners involved, the media team involved, everyone on the same boat again, and just in a matter of 2 weeks, launching a complete new campaign, tackling a need for the consumer, and we saw results. So it was also a success story.
And the numbers, as Maria mentioned, they were a lot higher than benchmarks that you see in this specific category with the formats that we activated. A 2 times increase in ROAS without actually tapping into media formats on an e-retailer channel is something to really be proud of. And given that we are talking right now about e-commerce and how that evolved and what we wanted to do with it. We have another example, and I think this one is something that J&J, J3 are very, very proud of. It's been something that I think has been in the making for the last few years, but we finally got the opportunity to work on this campaign last year. So e-commerce and precision have individually been key objectives for J&J over the last couple of years. What we saw with COVID was the opportunity to bring these two together in I'm going to say the cliched analogy of a blissful marriage. And we actually saw it work. What we launched was a global J&J first, an addressable e-commerce campaign. So when we say addressable e-commerce, what we're talking about is bringing together J&J's high-value audiences across their most profitable SKUs with the right messaging and pushing it across the right e-retailers. What we ended up with was a combination and permutation of about 1,700 different ad variations. What's really great about this monster of a project and how this really showcased collaboration is it wasn't just about J&J and J3 working together. And in fact, even if it was about not just local support, it wasn't just about regional support. We had support coming in at a global level because no other market globally on J&J had done this campaign before. So there's a lot of pressure, lots of eyes on us. And it was also about how do we work with our partners, because there's no way we could have done this without the partner support. Facebook came in and helped us with putting together a whole measurement framework to understand the performance of our high-value audiences across the different assets that we were putting together. 4C was the DCO that we worked with for the purpose of putting our creatives together on the go. Amazon, Nahdi, the e-retailers that we partnered with, we had to work really closely with them to ensure that all of the approvals for the creatives came on time, distribution listings were right on point, because we were launching during White Friday last year, or Black Friday, Yellow Friday, I don't know, whichever Friday you want to call it. So we were launching in November of last year, so we had to make sure that listings, distribution was absolutely on point, and none of this would have then been possible without internal support on J&J's side, where we had to work very closely with their commercial team, with their e-commerce team, to understand what does sellout look like. And sellout is something that not a lot of businesses feel comfortable sharing with their partner agencies. It's something that I think businesses tend to hold on to. It's their holy grail. But with J&J, because through the course of the years, through collaboration, we have gotten to a point where we can now have access to that data. And it helped us understand what we need to be pushing towards. It helped us understand post-campaign metrics as well. So before we close out, I'm going to show you a case study of this specific campaign that we are really proud of.
Yeah, this was collaboration at its best, because there were 3 brand teams involved, not one. We
Yeah.
merged 3 brands' budget together in order to be able to run this. So you can imagine everyone wants to push their own brand, right? So it goes back to, you're going to push this, you're going to push that. So a lot of managing internally, but because, again, I have to give it to the brand managers. Well, we have very passionate brand managers in our company, thankfully. And the e-com team, our distributor as well, because we are on a distributor model. So everyone came across to the table to be able to launch this.
Yeah.
And again, the results just speak by itself, right? When everyone comes to the same boat and we all row towards the same direction, you just reach faster.
Yeah. And rest assured, we will be submitting this for all of the upcoming awards.
Of course.
So yes, something that we were really proud of. The results were great. At Recall, we saw HVAs working. Everything I think that we had been working on for the last 2 years, trying to understand from a brand perspective, audience perspective, business perspective. This campaign helped us, prove that hypothesis right, test it, really learn from it. And I think if you want to add as well, Maria, in terms of any learnings, advice that we can give from our experience. I think, as I mentioned before, agility and trust is key. They work hand in hand. You have to make sure that you have built on that to be able to really come to the point of making positive impact on a business. The second thing that I have is it's about being able to take risks, because if you're not prepared to take that risk, you're really not going to know what's on the other side. And you don't have to start off with huge risks. You can start off small, learn, scale, and then improvise. And I think that's a lot of what we did on our side as well. And lastly, be prepared to grow together. Be prepared to evolve together. I think that's when you truly start functioning as one entity versus 2 separate businesses trying to achieve their own personal goals. And all said and done, have fun, because I've been with the business for the last 6 years, and believe me, no 2 years have been the same. No. And I think even today, I can safely say that I look forward to the next, set of campaigns that are coming through, because there's just so much new that's going on in the market.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Okay.
I think I
Thank
see that
you,
we have a question.
Ruqayiah and Maria. It was truly insightful.
All right.
Thank you.